making sense of it. So making sense of this work sample scoring guide is not too difficult, but it is important to know what's being looked for and what you're graded on. When you complete your work sample, this is how uh, myself and another teacher will grade your work sample. We'll look at all 5 of these topics, and you need to get 4s or above in order to pass this work sample in every single module, in every single category. 2 teachers at the Web Academy will go ahead and grade this. We can't offer you up any suggestions, but what we can do is we can highlight if there's something that you've missed, or you'll find that we can, if I underlined a portion that we feel that you need to work on. Okay, so you get a chance to redo these, but we can't tell you about them. We can only hand you your work and this official scoring guide and say, here you go, you can try again. So it's really important to know exactly what's needed for all of this. If we look, the making sense of the task is taking that prompt or that word problem, that story problem, and turning it into math. So that's where you're, if it's finding the volume of something, you're using the word volume. If you need to find area and perimeter, you use area and perimeter. If you have to find the shape of something, you're classifying it as a quadrilateral, using all the appropriate terms. What you want to get is this translation of math into a task that is adequately developed and displayed. Okay, so you've got a clear, this is where I'm starting and this is where I'm going. And why? Because of the math portion of it. Okay, so you want to have the mathematics. Also, your units and measurement come in here as well. You could have something that's partially displayed, possibly, if you were trying to find the volume and you never once listed, centimeters cubed or gallons or something like that. It would only be partially there. Representing and solving the task is how you go about solving this. So if you were solving for volume, you're not using the formula base times height. That would be area. Okay, so that would not be appropriate and that would be ineffective. So if you were trying to find volume, the problem was asking for volume and you solved for area, you would get a not useful over here, or probably just not useful because that's not even partially effective. If you were solving for volume but you didn't have your units and maybe you had centimeters squared, that could be partially effective or partially complete. So make sure that you have symbols, pictures, diagrams, and it's doing what you need it to do to come to an answer. So you don't want to just add a whole bunch in there that's not needed, but if it calls for any of that, make sure you include it. Communicating reasoning is really important because this is where, if you cover up the question that's being asked on your work sample, just through reading what you've written, I should be able to understand what the problem was asking. Okay, so that means that you're communicating using math what the question's asking for, how you're getting to each part. Here it's really good to use, first I'm going to do this. Second, I'm going to do this. Finally, I will do this. Okay, that gives your reader a really good idea of how you're moving through this. Using a clearly identified solution and a clear and coherent path. So even just using numbers, first go here, second, third, fourth, you can do that. But throughout the entire work sample, it needs to be clear. A lot of students will sometimes get underdeveloped or sketchy when there's not a lot there. We could also have partially displayed. So if you're jumping back and forth from various problems, or you're starting to work on something, aha, you get the answer and you just write the answer down. How did you get from the one step to the answer is what's needed, okay? Finally, accuracy is supporting the solution. So you have to have the work that goes with the answer. If you have the correct answer, but you don't have work that supports it, or your work isn't correct, but your answer's correct, you'll get a 2. Okay? You can have minor problems, and we'll underline this or highlight that. If it's partially correct or you're almost there, we can't tell you what that almost piece is, but we'll let you know that it's almost there. So you want to have work that is mathematically justified, and it's supported by your work, and it's correct, okay? If you want to go a step beyond that and get a 5 or a 6, you could maybe apply this to another problem that would be similar, or I don't know, discuss how that relates to something else that you know of. Things like that, but you only have to get the 4. And then finally, the last one is probably the easiest one to miss. However, it's also probably the easiest one to get a 4 on. So all you need to do in order to get a 4 on this is you want to justify your solution, and you want to restate what's happening. So honestly, the easiest way for me to explain this is for you to have a summary paragraph. So at the end of your work sample, you've gone through, you've found your answer, you've communicated your reasoning, you've represented your problem. I would say, well, this is where, so I was asked to solve this problem for this reason, and I used whatever method it is that you used. Going through the steps, I found that this was the solution, and I know that because this, and this were correct. I redid the calculations, and that was correct. This is a reasonable answer because if you could do it a second way, that would get you a 5 or a 6. But definitely having that summary paragraph. Also, any mistakes that you made, if you're writing something and you find it's a mistake, just scribble it. Don't scribble it out, but cross it out and write, oops, or that doesn't make sense. Okay, don't erase it. But that right there, that oops or that doesn't make sense, that lets the reader, me and the other teacher, know that you're looking for reasonableness. You're checking to make sure that it makes sense. You're reflecting on it, okay? So don't ever erase. Do not erase. Do not erase. Okay? So you will get this sheet with you when you get your work sample prompt. And you can look and you can highlight what you want to get. You can make notes on this, but I can't add those notes for you until I go to grade it. Okay, so if you need to, write do not erase on there, do that. Make sure that you're changing it into mathematics, whatever you need to do. You'll have this sheet to work with when you're working on your work sample.